Hi Affinity Designers, welcome back. One great way to learn how to use the Affinity programs is to try to mimic a style of an illustrator that you enjoy. I'm going to try Brian Biggs's Tinyville Town illustrations, and we're going to look on three areas: brushes, effects, styles, and masking, to try to mimic the style that he creates for his illustrations. Let's jump in. First, we're going to make a vector brush. As you know, vector brushes are a PNG file that's stretched or repeated over a path, and the best way to make them is just to draw a black background, and it needs to be wider than it is tall, and then I just built up a bunch of shapes to get that kind of rough, edgy view. Now, I had looked at his illustrations and I noticed the general appearance, and so I was just trying to mimic that. Once you've imported that into your brush editor, you can change the size, the pressure sensitivity, and drag the tail and head in or out to create the area that's going to repeat or stretch. In this case, I'm doing repeating brushes because I don't want to stretch out and lose the details. I made a couple vector brushes, this kind of wavy one, and the more jagged brush that you saw earlier. I made a few of those. And you know, at this point, it's about experimentation. If you're interested in more detail about how to make brushes, see some of my other videos. It's pretty straightforward, and it's the same for both Affinity 1 and Affinity 2.0, which this is right now. I'm currently using the 2.0. So we've got two kinds of brushes, and I've applied the vector brush to all the lines on this truck here. And you can use it in several ways. One is to just use a straight line, but notice here for the grill of the truck, I've actually drawn lines over a rectangle, and then I've selected a blending mode for each of those lines that is erase. By doing that, I'm erasing out a jagged, kind of more organic kind of line. I also exported a pixel brush. It's kind of like a cobblestone or spot pattern, and the important thing is to make sure that the background is set to transparent. So I got the checker behind those dots to show that there's no fill behind them, and then to make sure that things disappear off the right and reappear off the left, and disappear off the bottom and reappear on the top, so that when this tiles, there will be a seamless pattern. And then just export that PNG, and then import it as a brush in the pixel brushes option. I've applied this brush to the truck body, the kind of the bed of the truck, if you will, just to kind of create a little more texture, and I've also put it on the trees and the road just to break up those solid vector shapes. And you can apply it into a shape like this, and then I'm going to talk about masking later, but if you draw a solid shape on one layer and then draw a pixel layer, fill it with your brush, and drag the pixel layer into the vector, then it'll clip it perfectly inside, and you've got that nice masked pixel brush that you can then change the blending modes and opacity to create the effect you want. Moving on to styles, that StyleVille logo, I just wanted to add a drop shadow and a kind of rough edge. So just like any object where you can just click on a style once you've created it and it'll instantly apply it, that's what I did with that StyleVille logo. Notice it's just, single paths that I've united, and then I've applied that drop shadow and stroke effect to in one go. Finally, I noticed that in the original illustrations in Tinyville Town, a lot of the textures are masked inside other objects. And this is easy to do with Affinity. You create a vector shape or even a pixel object. In this case, I create a circle behind the StyleVille logo. Now I'm drawing a vector brush. I created kind of a rough ink brush swipe sort of there. I'm filling with red, and then I'm going to drag it inside of the sun. I position it first, and then in the layers palette just drag the curve layer below and into the ellipse layer, and now it's trapped inside. I can move it around, but it's not going to get outside of the stroke. There's a little stroke on the edge. And then I can adjust the opacity or the blending mode to make it less harsh. In this case, I think I'm going to do something a little bit lighter. Like, let's say we'll do color dodge maybe. Want a little orange, more orange. I think soft light's good. And there you have a nice sun with a little bit of difference. It's not just a vector shape. Thanks for watching. I know we kind of flew through this, but if you'd like more instruction about the different techniques in this video, see some of my earlier videos. Hope you enjoyed and learned something, and we'll see you next time.